Hi, this is former examiner Gary here from Mc IELTS with another edition of silly, mistaken, sometimes crazy or a little stupid IELTS stuff from the internet. One day, a student asked me, Thank you, teacher. Teacher, I read on the internet that I should use only British English on the IELTS speaking test and the written test because the British Council and Cambridge and Australian IDP own the test. So I should avoid American pronunciation and spelling. Is that true? No, that is not accurate. English, as you know, as we know, is the global language, the lingua franca, and the IELTS is a global test. So both standard British English and standard American English are fine, and Australian English. The differences in pronunciation, idioms, vocabulary, spelling, all of it is acceptable. Now, here's where probably the confusion comes from. Originally, the IELTS test was the world's British Australian test, and the TOEFL was the American-Canadian test. That's true. But about 10 years ago, the British Council started changing that, and they made the test more friendly, user-friendly, acceptable in America and Canada. And how did they do that? They were very clever. Why did they do it? Let's think about that. Let's think about what happened and why things changed. So, why did things change? What happened? Do you remember the Beatles? Do you remember the Rolling Stones? What about Pink Floyd? Those were famous British bands. And where did they make most of their money? In the American market. They wanted a piece of that big American pie, and they got it, and they became very rich through that market, the American market. So, the British Council and IDP and Cambridge did the same thing. They wanted a piece of the American market, but it was British Australian English. The American universities didn't want it. So what did they do? They restructured the test. How did they do that? Number one, the British Council and IDP started hiring American examiners. 10 years ago, 8 years ago, there were no American or Canadian examiners. They were all British or Australian. Nowadays, it's 40-50% American and Canadian. The second thing they did was they made at least one of the listening activities and one of the reading activities related to America. So the listening had American pronunciation and the reading was an American topic. The third thing they did was teach and educate all the examiners and everyone related to the test throughout the world that either British or American English was okay. It's all acceptable. And the last thing they did was a really good marketing program in America. They went to all the American universities, told them about what they did for the changes of the test. And over time, the last several years, basically almost all American universities now will accept the IELTS. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, most American universities would not accept the IELTS. Now, these days, most American universities will accept the IELTS. Therefore, to be clear, British English or American English is fine. So, good luck on your IELTS test, and see you next time. So, now you know.